Welcome to the beta recording of my own rig pipeline. I am already using this for my own game project. For this demonstration, I will be doing an overview rather than step by step. To begin with starting a rig, you would do things like setting the show, the character that he is, the version, and the rig. An important thing to know about when you're doing it for this UI, setting the show is actually controlling the rules of the rig. It's controlling the naming convention of the rig. So basically, if I go to this visibility toggle control, you'll see that the naming convention is what it is as the prefix, the side as the suffix, the name after the prefix, the number before the suffix. I could completely change this for a different show so that the side is in a different location, the number is in a different location, and the controller is in a different location. And then it would be simply a matter of switching to that show. It'd be using that naming convention. And then you can do the same thing for controllers. So you can have completely different controller shapes and colors for a different show, and then the tool would support it instead of having to edit the tool to support it. Next, we jump into the module creation of the character. If I was starting the character fresh, I would be clicking this button, choosing from the list of modules that I can use, and then building my character. For this character, we already have it pre-set up, so we can just jump straight into what these modules are. We go into the leg, we see that we have the choice for the side. For the name, we have the choice to enter a list of names, but you also have the choice of simply just saying leg and it would support it. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do that though, because then if it gets overlapping controls, you're not going to be able to distinguish which controller is which. Next, we jump into the parent module, which is basically saying what module controls this module. So I want my spine, which is spine 1, to be controlling it. The reason why I say my spine is spine 1 is because you'll see also spine 2, which is my head. Another thing is you could have a creature that has two bodies, so you need the leg to be attached to a different body. And then we get into the parent type, which is basically controlling how is this being attached to this module. You have the options of parent, constraint, and rivet. Next, you jump into parent blend, which is basically saying what's controlling these parent blend spaces. For world, I don't want anything controlling it. For the base, I want the god. For the core, I want the spine. For local, I want the leg itself. You'll have additional options like number of fingers for hands. And then if we scroll down here, you'll see additional options for the spine, saying number of segments, and etc. Another thing to note is you'll see these plus and minuses here. So basically plus means that you can enter all this information in here once on one leg, click plus, it will duplicate it all, and then if you have a right leg, you just switch the side to right leg. Or if you went, no what, I screwed up, I realized this character only has one leg, remove the left leg, removes it from the module. Then you would export this information so that you have your modules all set up, and then basically you have a template for that character. Then you would go on to the next step, which is positioning, which is positioning all the joints. The next one is building the rig. From there, you would change the controller sizes to wrap around your geometry better. And then from there, you would go to deformers, start doing your weightings, and then exporting all that deformer information. From then, we get into the rig. The rig itself is basically a stripped down rig based upon a sausage party rig. Things to know for its behavior is basically it doesn't have any things like ribbons and it's all joint based deformations. Doesn't mean though that it's lacking in capability. So for example, he has stretch within the individual FKs. Another thing to note on these arms is basically if I move up, it manipulates in this behavior up instead of getting skewed weighting based movements. Um, Additional controller values are on the hand controller here that has a bunch of values from the FKIK for the arm to the FKIKs of every single finger, stretching, etc., cup, spread, curl, stretch, individual curls, and individual stretches. For the spine, you have the option of controlling the positioning of the spine controller. So you can have it up at the chest, or you can have it at the at the COG of the body, the natural COG. Additional things is this rig has squats and stretches that are based upon joint deformations rather than lattice deformations. So if I select this guy here and start manipulating him, you will see him doing a squash and stretch with this manipulation. Advantages of using this is that the controllers are actually going to be positioned accordingly. Additional options that are on these guys are basically the ability to control the behavior of these controllers. So right now I have one reverse and one inverse. If I set these guys down, you'll see the controller shapes change, and now it's just a pure FK chain. Or what you can do is go back up there, and we can choose to go through this and say, I want it to be all reverse. So now his behavior is going to obviously work from the hip up to the chest. Another thing that you can do is choose the option of these inverse, which is basically just a controller that acts kind of independently in between the two controllers. So now this guy here, he's being controlled from this guy and then this guy. So that's his behavior. Things to note for that is that that is both on the spine, the head, and then the IK of the feet. And that's the rig in a nutshell.